Welcome back. Time now for the news review right here, and we're joined by Kojo Poku, an energy analyst, and Wisdom Dogbe, a financial analyst. Let me say a very good morning to my guests. Good morning.
Good morning. Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
I'm very well. We are on it, struggling, but we are pushing ahead.
What are you struggling with?
Well, the time that we have and then the things we have to do before 7 December.
I see.
I thought you were going to say we're all managing. Everybody's a manager now in this economy.
Which economy are we talking about? You live in America, I live in Ghana. Which
Ghana's economy, of course.
You don't live in Ghana, so how can you be managing Ghana's economy?
It impacts me, Kojo.
How?
Come on, I have my life in Ghana. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it doesn't impact you, it impacts your family. Anyway, Ben, I hope you're well.
But are you suggesting, Kojo, that if someone doesn't find himself physically in Ghana, he or she wouldn't feel the pinch? People are sending remittances. People have pressure. People calling them every day. Charlie, this has come up. Iyabo and all that. Are you saying there's no impact on them?
You can use other words, but you cannot say that it impacts. You are feeling the pain of the. I mean, it's not your first go-to.
I am feeling the pain, Ankasa.
Well, that's fine. I mean, that's
okay.
Your elephant.
All right, gentlemen.
Elephant me.
Yo, it's fine. It's fine. Let me start with your brief thoughts this morning. Wisdom, I'll start with you. Please keep it brief, crisp, straight to the point. What are your thoughts?
Ben, this morning I want to commend Vice President Dr. Bawumia for his foresight, in launching the credit scoring system for Ghana. I think this is very commendable, and it places our nation on a path to compete on the global stage. When it comes to credit, the way you can make credit widely available to us eligible citizens in the nation. The only problem is that the way this credit scoring system is launched, it is almost meaningless and less inclusive. And I worry that it may not have the right impact, as we've seen credit scoring systems in developed nations like here in the US, how it works. I say it is almost meaningless because a credit scoring system is not like launching a ride-sharing app, for example, right? And secondly, that by itself will not necessarily help improve the rate of non-performing loans in the financial sector. I believe there was a bit of a missed opportunity here in how this was launched, because a key part of successfully creating credit starts from land or property ownership. And I'll suggest that any effort to create credit scoring system without first facing property rights so that these credit ratings can be accurate and inclusive, that effort is likely going to fail. We have to face property rights first. Only then can a credit score accurately reflect the earning potential and the true credit worthiness of consumers.
All right, thank you for your thoughts. Kojo Poku. Hi, thank you. We are in Ashanti region, basically getting ahead with the work that we are doing, spreading the message of hope and the bold solution. As you heard recently, Dr. Bawumia announced two very prominent policies, one being the slight adjustment in cocoa prices from 3,000 to 3,100 because Cote d'Ivoire also basically came up above our price. And Dr. has always said that if Cote d'Ivoire basically priced more than Ghana, the Ghanaian cocoa farmer will get a little bit more. So now cocoa price is 3,100, no longer 3,000. Then also, before, Cocoa Board was doing this farmers scholarship in secondary schools. But because now there's free senior high school, the new announcement is that all children of cocoa farmers will go to university with the cocoa scholarship. So children of cocoa farmers will go to university for free. But in that line of bold solution, Dr. Bawumia, when we were in the Bono region, Ghana, we do a lot of cashew. And if you look at the Bono area from Banda all the way to Wenchi, the South German North area, that area is cashew country. And when he went there, he told them that he wants the crop growing authority, the tree crop development authority, to behave and work like the Cocoa Board. So they are going to have a price mechanism for cashew. And in working with the price mechanism that is going to be in place, we are no longer going to allow foreigners to go to the cashew growing areas to exploit the farmers. There's going to be a produce buying company, which is going to be a Ghanaian owned. And the next season, in working with the Tree Crop Authority, in the next window, which starts December 15th, the price for cashew per kilo is going to be 13 cedis, which is about 5 cedis more than what it was in the last season. So it's a good news, and the bold solution is working for the people of the Bono area. So they can be rest assured that nobody's going to come and exploit them, and they're going to get 13 cedis per kilo for cashew.
Let's get into the papers now, and we start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper. Standoff in Parliament, solution rests with Speaker. Afenyo Markin asserts 4 MPs vacant seat controversy. Supreme Court delivers judgment today. Vote for competence above other considerations. NCCE boss to electorate. On the back page, Genomic Medicine Building Complex inaugurated, and GACL donates 2 dialysis machines, chairs to Kolebu Teaching Hospital. And in recent times, dialysis coming to the fore one more time, and the NHIA government stepping in, intervening to some level, but a whole lot of people on the verge of kidney collapse and dialysis issues. There's a 13-year-old whose story we've been sharing with you this morning. But let me start from there, on the back page. The Ghana Airports Company Limited has donated 2 dialysis machines and 2 treatment chairs to the Kolebu Teaching Hospital to address critical equipment shortages in the Premier Hospital's dialysis treatment unit. In addition to the equipment, the GACL will cover 1 month of dialysis treatment costs for 50 patients at the hospital, a gesture aimed at easing the financial burden on patients. The equipment and patient treatment costs around $112,000, approximately 2 million Ghana cedis. The group also further donated 200,000 Ghana cedis to the cardiothoracic department of the hospital. The managing director of GACL, Yvonne Opari, stated that the donation was part of the company's corporate social responsibility. And I think all organizations, MNCs among others, big business that should be donating to the dialysis center, not just at Kolebu, but at the training hospitals, the major public hospitals, because it's becoming a real menace. The Komfo-Anokye Teaching Hospital, the Tamale Teaching Hospital, among others. Then, standoff in Parliament, solution rests with Speaker Afenyo Markin asserts. Now, the Majority Leader, Alexander Afenyo Markin, has stated that the solution to the ongoing standoff in Parliament rests solely on the shoulders of the Speaker of the House, Alban Sumana Kingsford Bagman. He said it was Mr. Bagman's declaration of the seats of 4 members of Parliament vacant that caused the chaos in the chamber, insisting that the Speaker consequently bore the ultimate duty of bringing peace in the House. The Leader of Government Business pointed out that the Speaker was the, quote, source and cause of the confusion in Parliament rather than any person. And he says, we think that the Speaker has failed Parliament and he is failing democracy. That is our view. And he says they are ready to engage. But I've heard different dimensions to this story. And I would also ask about the leadership of he himself, the leader of the MPP caucus, Afenyo Markin. Yesterday, I heard former President Mahama talk about the fact that if he were president, he would have called upon the Council of State, some elders of religious bodies to engage the Speaker and to have resolved this impasse. But anyway, it is where it is. I've heard different voices on this matter, and we'll see how things go, especially in anticipation of the court's ruling. But let me also look at, and of course, I've already mentioned that the court will be delivering its ruling, but since it's tied to it, let me just skip to page 13 and get that in the fray. Let me just go there quickly. The vexed issue of 4 seats in Parliament declared vacant by the Speaker, which has halted the extraordinary sittings of the House and set the stage for a potential constitutional crisis, is expected to be resolved by the Supreme Court today. A 7-member panel of the Apex Court, presided over by the Chief Justice Gertrude Tokonu, will deliver judgment giving the correct interpretation of Article 97(1)(g) and (h) of the Constitution. Other members of the panel are Justices Mariam Owusu, Avril Lovelace Johnson, Isifu Omoro Tanko Amadu, Samuel Kwame Adibu Asiedu, Ernest Yao Gayu, and Yao Dakon. Asari. All of them will be on board for that ruling. And finally, this one. Vote for competence above other considerations. NCCE boss to electorate. Now, the chairperson of the NCCE, Kathleen Addy, has called on voters to look beyond money, ethnic and religious considerations to vote on December the 7th. She said the electorate had to vote based on the competence and plans of candidates. Full stop. I mean, I could go on and on, but that's the thrust of her message. I'll start with you, Kojo. Reflections.
Well, it's very unfortunate that His Excellency John Dramani Mahama only talks about things that has already been done. The Council of State have met with the Speaker. There's a picture online that shows you when they met with him. I mean, other religious bodies have met with the Speaker, and he tells them one thing, and when the Parliament reconvenes, he went and did a different thing. Look, words matter in this country. And in private and in other conversations...
Clarify this for me. You say he tells them one thing and he goes to do another thing. Where he is whom?
The Speaker. The Speaker tells everybody that meets with him privately one thing and then goes into the chamber to do something else. He has said that he has never ruled that he is not pay his ruling that the chaos is there. But he also refuses to basically ask the minority side to step down from what they are doing, because it is by his utterance, as the majority leader, Afenyo Markin, rightfully said. What is stopping him from coming out to tell the minority side to sit on the minority side, because they are still minority? These things, look, words matter, and it's by his utterances that we are in this chaos. And the only way it's reversed is by his action. By so doing, he's going to go down as one of the worst speakers that we have in our history, and history will judge him accordingly. Let me move on to the dialysis issue. From the 1st of December, all kidney patients will receive free dialysis under the National Health Insurance. Before, it was patients under 16 years and people under over 60 years. But now, as has been announced by the Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia Bold Solution speech, I think sometime last week, he basically came out to say that the government has directed NHIS to now take care of all kidney patients, to give them free dialysis under the National Health Insurance from the December 1st. So it's good news for Ghanaians, and it's good news, like you rightfully said, dialysis is a problem for our mothers, brothers, and sisters in this country when it comes to kidney diseases. So it's good news that now, going forward from 1st of December, there's going to be free dialysis under the National Health Insurance.
Wisdom? Wisdom, you would have to unmute. Okay, yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Look, I have a lot of respect for the Speaker of Parliament. He's an honorable man, a man with an impeccable, record of public service. And I respect and I admire him a great deal for that. I don't think he thinks he's a king or an emperor, as the MPP caucus leader cautioned. I think what Ghanaians are saying is that they need a parliament that works for them, but also a parliament that is free of unnecessary judicial influence. Right now, the Chief Justice is calling the situation in Parliament a constitutional crisis. And the Speaker of Parliament is also saying there is no crisis. So evidently, the key players in this matter, they are not on the same page in diagnosing the enormity of the standoff. And I believe that people just want normalcy to return. So I hope the Supreme Court delivers a verdict today based on facts and the rule of law. But as I mentioned before...
What do you think, though, about... I mean, people have, in different ways, lampooned the leader of the MPP caucus, Alexander Afenyo Markin, but others have also lampooned, taken the Speaker himself to the cleaners and said that, look, like it or not, when it comes to constitutional matters, in the end, no matter whether even the Supreme Court is right or wrong, whatever its ruling is binding until you can find other mechanisms of overturning that. Of course, I understand the situation. You would say that the mechanism is the same mechanism that has denounced, this process. But what role does the Speaker play in terms of responsibility here? What do you think?
I think that the Speaker is doing what he's supposed to do. I like to listen to the experts on this matter. And just yesterday, one of the Ghana's distinguished lawyers, Chachuchi Kata, he came out to speak his mind about this. that even the majority leader did not have a basis to go to the Supreme Court in the first place. So I think regardless of what is going on in the court, the Speaker of Parliament, he's doing what is in the best interest of the nation from a Parliament perspective. And as I mentioned before, Ben, on this topic, we do have three arms of government. And the founders and the framers of the Constitution, they intended these arms of government to work hand in hand, and not one of them, exerting undue influence or pressure on the other. I just think that the Supreme Court should have maybe stayed out of similarly, trying to have a say in the ways the Speaker of Parliament implements the standing orders of the House. That is why I agree with Chachuchi Kata on this one. We need to understand that it is not the right picture, that the Supreme Court appears to be more powerful than the legislative branch of government. When that happens, Ben, as some Ghanaians are already saying, it creates the impression that the judiciary is becoming political, not independent.
But hold it there. Among the three arms of government, there's no such thing as which one is more powerful. They play different. No, hold for me. You suggested that this one is beginning to look more powerful. There is no, and that is exactly the problem. That is what brings power play. It's like, let me use the analogy of Christian belief, Catholic belief in the Trinity. Father, Son, Holy Spirit. One is not seen to be above the other. They are co-equal, a Trinity, three persons, one God. That's how we see it. It's the same here. And that is why you have separation of powers. That's why you have checks and balances. That's why they are supposed to be co-equal, so that this one can check the other two, this can check the other two, and that's the system. So it's not about who is more powerful or which entity is more powerful. People often make the mistake. They think because the executive usually runs government, it is more powerful than the other arms of government. That is not, and in any case, that's not what it should be. Please go ahead.
Ben,
well, since he's had some time,
please let him land.
Let me make my point quickly. Ben, you're right? When the judiciary starts to work to, rule on how Parliament should be run, then they start to appear as if they are more powerful than the other branches. That's my point that I was trying to make. And I also believe that these are the sort of situations that cause, Ghana's judicial index, their independence index, to drop so significantly over the last decade. There is a test of our democracy. Let's not forget that. So far, it is good for our democracy, right? There's not been any issues that we can say that there is major constitutional crisis. I believe it will be resolved. But I think there should really be clear separation of powers. And the way this one is resolved will set clear precedents going forward on future issues.
Well, if I may, Kojo, will you allow me to regulate this, please?
Okay.
If I may add, that same index which you reference, which talks about the sharp fall in the judicial, indices of Ghana, also points to a sharp fall in the parliamentary ratings, indices of Ghana as well. So maybe it's high time we looked at all of it. And even the executive, when you look at governance related matters. So maybe it's high time we stopped the politicization, the polarization, and looked at our three arms of government, because all of them are receiving, in some cases, fail grades, and it's high time we looked at them, executive, legislature, judiciary.
Absolutely.
What is going on with our three arms of government? Because if they don't hold, there are going to be problems. Finally, Ansan Sari, who is former director of the Ghana School of Law, waded into it, and he said for him, where he sat was that the problem was created by the courts. And that right stemming from the very fact that what the point Chachuchi Kata makes, that there was no legal basis for it even to start the process based on what Afenyo Markin brought in. That is what has brought us here. So you have varying opinions, but how do we resolve this? That's the bottom line. Kojo Poku.
I am very surprised that anybody will say that a citizen of this country doesn't have a right to go to Supreme Court for interpretation of a law. It's a right of everybody, right? Everybody can go to the Supreme Court.
The legal process, no one is saying that you can't go. It's about the legal process
he
that
said
started
he said earlier,
this.
What he said earlier was that Chachu said that Afenyo Markin should not have gone to court in the first place. And I'm saying that nobody can say that because it's everybody's right to go to court to get an interpretation. That's the point I'm making.
Okay.
You see,
I thought you were referencing Ansar Sari, who was, purporting something.
No, he said that Chachu said that Afenyo Markin has no right to go to court. You see, everybody has run to the Supreme Court. Today, the minority side is the Supreme Court trying to get Supreme Court to rule on LGBT, right? Everybody in this country, depending where you find yourself, when you have a conundrum, when you feel that the system is being unfair, where do you go? The Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court is there for all of us. And it has ruled for most people. And every time it rules on people's favor, oh, yay, they are the big thing that has ever happened before the slice of bread. But when it ruled against you, it's human nature. You are not so happy. But we should stop bastardizing the Supreme Court to make it look like it is a political institution. It's not. And we all know it is not. The issue of
let me make a point. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. When I thought you were done on that point.
This issue can be resolved by the speaker himself. And let me repeat this.
But why make it a speaker's problem and say, how about the other parties? How about the other parties in the conversation?
No, but he started it. There was no other parties. Look, there is no standing order which the speaker relied on to make his ruling. There's no standing order. And Mr. Honorable Osechi Mensah had a one-on-one with Evans on the PM Express. And if you watch it, he categorized it clearly. There is no standing order on which the speaker made that utterance, that ruling. There was nothing in front of him to make a ruling. The parliament has rules. There are ways in which a speaker can make a ruling, either through a petition, which has to go to the petition committee. In this case, there was no petition, and nothing has gone to the petition committee and come to the plenary. There was the statement on the House. What was the statement? What the plea from the minority side at the time, he couldn't stand on that to make a ruling. So this thing can easily, it's the speaker who made a mistake. He can call the parliament and basically say that, look, based on what was said and it was erroneously interpreted, this is what it is. Case closed.
All right.
The speaker can do that.
All right. Let me just say this, and then we'll move on from this matter and go into other papers. So what Chachu says is that he indicates that the courts typically do not issue stays of execution on rulings from another branch of government, such as Parliament. And quoting him, he says here, first of all, there is really no legal basis for a stay of execution of a ruling of the Speaker. The Supreme Court and other courts have the authority to stay execution of decisions within the court system, but you don't apply for a stay of execution of something that happens within another arm of government, which is the arm of the Speaker. There are clear decisions of the court themselves, including the Supreme Court's decisions, which make it absolutely clear that you don't, under the guise of interpretation, take to the Supreme Court things that are within the preserve of other courts or other authorities in the system. And we know what 99 says about the High Court. So that is the angle Chachu
But you are aware of Attorney General and Alassa, right? Where the Supreme Court came and even expunged Hansard writings. So that one, I don't see what Chachu is talking about.
What is your point? What is your point on that?
My point is, Supreme Court, there's nothing that has happened until the Supreme Court rules and becomes a precedent. So what are we talking about? The law.
Wait. Repeat what you just said. What did you just say?
What I said is that a lot of things does not exist until the Supreme Court rules and becomes a precedent.
But even precedents can be overturned, right?
Well, but the Supreme Court rules, unless Supreme Court, let me finish. Unless Supreme Court overturns
wisdom.
Well,
please.
What I'm saying is that the law of the land states that when Supreme Court rules is final and it becomes a test case and precedent. Now, anytime the Supreme Court has ruled, there are things that did not exist until Supreme Court rules and it becomes a precedent which can be cited in other cases. So in this case, it has never happened before, but the Supreme Court has done it, which would now become a precedent.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts, gentlemen. I'll just take a swipe at these international stories. We are not reflecting on them. Botswana Vice President to double as Finance Minister. Some of these arrangements sometimes interest me, but we've seen in Nigeria, for example, where I think the president was also oil minister, related to that and with other portfolios. But briefly, 15 soldiers killed in operation against Boko Haram Kenya's Raila Odinga launches candidature for AU's top job. And Mauritius PM concedes defeat in parliamentary election. Those are the stories there. Let's do the Daily Guide now. They also talk about... so I found this one interesting. Sitting on minority side will be bad omen. Afenyo Markin, he was talking about the fact that it would be spiritually wrong for him to sit in the minority leader's chair. And I guess we spiritualize everything. My take, personal take. Local government minister commissions Techiman and Nkoranza markets. 4 MPs seat saga. Bagbin swerves SC judgment today. Rebecca campaigns for Bawumia and end dollar-based crude oil pricing. Dr. Abdul Hamid says so. Let me just take a quick swipe at that story. We've already looked at those politically charged ones. The African Refiners and Distributors Association has asked 54 African countries to end the dollarization of petroleum products. They asked the African countries to build integrated infrastructure to guarantee energy security that is independent of developed countries to stabilize their economies. President of the ARDA, Dr. Mustafa Abdul Hamid, while speaking at the African Energy Week in Cape Town, South Africa, also called for a halt in the export of crude oil from Africa, insisting that the continent was far from meeting its energy security amid rising population. I also like to just say this, that oftentimes when we talk about the dollarization of economies and all of that, sometimes we get it wrong. We have done too much of it in Ghana, and now, real estate and other things, if you want to veer into anything, people are quoting in dollars. Some basic things I don't even want to mention here, people quote in dollars, maybe because of where we've got to. But there is also the thinking that because of BRICS and all of that, it is good. This initiative is good. But let no one think that, it's going to be an overnight success where we win ourselves of dollarization, or even the euro, or even the Swiss franc, though the dollar is the most popular, or the Great British pound. It will happen on the back of sustained, proper economic management and ensuring that our currency is at a certain base so that it can be used as a standard. The Americans have the Fort Knox, they have the Fed, and what they do, they have the largest store of gold in terms of weighting their currency. So let's stop this joke, because we like to talk about this sometimes, but you know better, Wisdom Dogbe, that is not a reality. But Wisdom, I would have gone to Kojo Poku for starters because it's an energy matter. I want to start with you briefly before I go to Kojo.
But I missed this one in the news, but what I would say is, if we can produce enough crude oil in Ghana, right, we will be able to win ourselves off of international crude oil. For instance, with what is going on not in Ukraine, but in Israel and the Middle East, the risk is that as the war continues, we will see crude oil go up. And that is dollar denominated. But if we can produce more crude oil locally, that will cushion us from surging energy prices because of geopolitical tensions. Now, the other thing I'll say briefly is everything in Ghana now is priced in dollars, especially if you don't live in Ghana and you call to, follow up on something. The moment they see your number, your foreign number, your price is going to be in dollars. So I hope that also can change. It's not just crude oil, but everything else that is priced in the country.
Kojo.
This thing I don't understand. You are calling from America. Somebody is speaking to you in a language you understand. Then you are saying that the minute they see if you are calling from America, isn't dollar you chop? Why won't somebody talk to you?
That doesn't mean what I call
Let's move on. It is what it is. You live in America. Somebody will talk to you in a language you understand, which is dollar. Look, Ben, the most important thing is that there is always bold solutions in everything that we are doing going forward in this country. What Dr. Hamid was talking about is at the back of gold for oil, which has been very successful and has also resonated in other parts of African countries where the last, I think there was an African Union conference or something like that, where that policy of gold for oil has been talked about. A lot of international communities are beginning to look at that policy where they have certain natural resources and they want to now bring back the barter trade where we are swapping commodity for commodity. I think in terms of crude oil now, most of the reports into Ghana, we hardly import crude because you are aware that our oil refinery is not working, and the other refinery, they are all private refineries. So how they pay for their crude is their own backyard. But in terms of products,
but let me ask you quickly, just a quick thought. I'm sorry to interrupt your train of thought. Is Central working?
Central is working, yes, but Central is private, so Central imports its own crude oil.
I am fully aware of that. Do you know their capacity, their level of production currently? Do you know?
No, I don't. But Central is labeled to be something about 30,000 or 60,000 metric tons per day, but they are not running at full capacity. I really don't follow Central that much, so I might be wrong on that capacity.
Okay, I was just asking to know how much it would be contributing to our ecosystem when it comes to fuel and fuel prices.
About 13%. Central will contribute about 13% to our local domestic. Most of it is still imported. But you know that about 38% of our imports now is the gold for oil import, where we basically swap the imports with gold. And that is going so well. The bold solution going forward is to basically increase that ecosystem of where we pay gold for our products to about 68 to 70%. So majority of our imports will now be gold. The other thing where, Ben, you mentioned that it's going to take time, we agree. But a lot of the monies that are basically sent out of the country based on companies who are doing business here, multinationals, one of the policies going forward is to basically also encourage them, which has been started by Bank of Ghana, to encourage the likes of MTN and other big corporates who repatriate a lot of money to really take gold for their repatriation, which Bank of Ghana has started that initiative. So the more gold we have, we will be able to use gold as our backbone of all the exchanges of foreign currencies that we need. So gold is as good as money. So that is where the world is heading. And with Dr. Bawumia coming out with G4O, gold for oil, a lot of communities have really started looking at that policy as well.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts there. I stumbled on this story. I'll not read it out, but I think it's beautiful. From stigma to triumph, the story of twins with albinism. And Mawunyo Kuma Yako Dagba and Mause Yako Hamidu graduating there. And sometimes the sort of impediments you see, they already have to go through quite a lot, walking in the sun and other things, and the stigma in society. So congratulations to them. You can check out details of that on page 4 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Trump has promised a closed border mass deportations. What does that mean for immigrants? You can check out the story on page 5 of the Daily Guide newspaper. Burkina Faso military regime aims to reinstate death penalty, government says. But let me quickly go to the Economy Times newspaper. Ghana backs $840 million in oil revenue in the first half. If you have any reaction to any of those stories, you can feed them into when I'm done with this one. And the Public Interest and Accountability Committee's semi-annual report has indicated that oil revenue for January to June 2024 reached $840.7 million, a notable rise from $540 million in the same period in 2023. There's also Bank of Ghana's gold coin effectiveness to tackle Ghana's dollarized economy critiqued. And of course, there are critiques of that saying that this probably is not going anywhere. I have heard, I think it was Professor Buckpen or one of those also talk about it and say, or was it Lord Mensah, say that this was no solution really in dealing with issues. Vote for my husband, Alan's wife charges and says he will be a better president. And that is the New Independent newspaper. It also says Alan Cash gains northern momentum as Alhaji Sadiq Boniface rallies Savannah region for change. Then there is the story. Daybreak, Medical Association laments members' alcohol abuse. And the president, Dr. Sribo, has been talking about that with some junior doctors impacted, claiming some of them get drunk, they physically or sexually abuse some patients, and some of them neglect duty. So those are some of the comments that have been made. Of course, this is not to whitewash all junior doctors or all doctors for that matter and say that they are engaging in these. These are some topical stories I want to bring to your attention as we wrap. I'll start with you, Wisdom.
No, could you?
On the Trump item, I think that a lot of Ghanaians, especially those in the church, are very happy about Trump winning the elections. there are videos on social media purportedly attributed to Trump that he will stop the sex change surgeries of our children. To be clear with your viewers, there is no such thing as a sex change of children in the U.S. without the parents' consent. But somehow, Trump has made his supporters believe your child can go to school as a boy and come back home as a girl. That's false. There's also nothing like elective abortion during birth or killing the baby after the child is born. That is murder here in the U.S. Look, I like to refer to myself also as pro-life and also pro-family. But I'll caution Ghanaians to be a bit careful in celebrating Trump, right? I worry that the U.S. and the world, we are getting to a point where we no longer care about people's character.
Brief thoughts. Go ahead, but make your thoughts very brief. Mm-hmm.
So I think that Trump is seen as a pro-business candidate. That is why we saw global stock markets rally so strongly when he won. But we should watch out. I mean, Ghana inclusive. We should watch out for his trade policies.
All right.
He said he would slap tariffs on all imports coming to the U.S.
Right.
That can affect Ghana's businesses as well.
Okay. We don't have enough time, so we just have to maybe address one issue. Maybe at some other opportunity, I'll walk
but you let me talk on this matter.
All of us through. Kojo,
Ben,
can you have patience?
Comment on this matter.
Can you have patience?
Say that again.
Can you have patience?
No,
Kojo?
but
I've not ended the conversation. I'm merely stating something.
And you made Wisdom go. I was supposed to go because
How do you know you were supposed to go first?
I know, but you started with Wisdom. You're supposed to come back to me, and Wisdom is done, and you're not coming back to me, and you're making a commentary. That's the point I'm making.
Go ahead, Kojo.
Thank you. With the issue
since you are the host, you are a host and a guest at the same time.
No, I'm not the host, but
go
in fairness, you are Ben, you are a champion of fairness, aren't you? There you go. You see, I like that smile. I like that smile. You see, look, in this issue of the coin and all these things, look, in every country, when something is introduced, it takes time. Nobody thought that the free credit scoring system in America, which was started in 1956, it did not take off until the 1980s. Okay. So everything that is introduced takes time. The coin, the gold coin, will take time. Okay. We have people who are set in their world and set in their lifestyle. They are not going to stop their investing habit to buy the gold coin. But as time goes around, a new generation comes in. They will accept the new instruments that are available. So I think we should give everything that comes around time to grow.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the conversation. And that was Kojo Poku. He's an energy analyst. We also had Wisdom Dugbe, a financial analyst. Stay with us. We'll be right back after the break, and Muftar Nabil Abdullahi will be serving you sports. Do stay.